Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Coming again tonight with a third part to the equity series in relations to the jury summons that I recently received. Before we get into it, I want everybody to hit that like, share, and subscribe button for me if you would, please. I really do appreciate everybody's help and support. There are PayPal links in the chat section or detail section below for anybody who wants to share some love. And the StreamYard link is pinned for anybody that wants to come up and join the chat. And what I'm going to do tonight is go over my responsive notice as it relates to the jury summons that they're trying to enforce on me. So before we get into that, I'll explain it a little bit first, in that they originally sent a jury summons supposedly a couple of years ago. And of course, it didn't reach me. They used an old address. They didn't have my new address. And so I was looking up my records and I saw a new charge on there. So I figured I'd address it. And that was the failure to appear for jury duty. Now, in that, they placed a $350 bond for failure to appear for jury duty. But when you look it up online and you look at the filings and everything, it tells you there's no finances, no long title, no citation, no charges, no bond, and yet they placed a bond despite the fact that they served diligently, but it was never received, and we agreed on that. And so when I went into court to address that, that's what we agreed on, is that there was no receivership. And so she decided that she would dismiss the bond and send me a new summons in the mail. And I gave her a 4-line address. And instead of sending me a summons and placing a dismissal of the bond, she placed a continuance on the docket and then sent me a postcard to do the shit online. When I got online, they wanted a phone number. I'm not going to give them a phone number. It's not required. So I had to call down there on my phone and tell them, no, I demanded a hand or a definitive paper summons so that I could fill out the questionnaire. Oh, okay. So they sent me the summons, but again, they didn't use the 4-line address like I told them. See, this is conversion of data elements right from the beginning. They don't understand this. Those are the data elements I gave you specifically. And yet you insist on using the legal name and its representation, despite the fact that I told you, no, you can't do that. You're putting a last name on that address when I never told you to put a last name on there. Brother Keith, full colon, in ecclesia, full colon, care of, semicolon, Joyce, full colon, at the street address in the city, state, zip with a zip around with square brackets. They don't want to do that. That's falsifying the data elements right from the start, folks. You have the right to determine how they address you. This is a matter of redress. So then they sent me the summons, and I had to line out and veto some things and overwrite and make some notes and do my own little signature thing. And I've done a post on that. You can go on to Facebook and check that out, Lawful Living, and check that out. I think I might even post a thing in the community section on El Perro on it. But in the meantime, let's get into my response. And again, that StreamYard link is down there for anybody that wants to join the panel as I go over this. So we start here with a statement of facts that I am attaching to the jury summons that I line out and veto and overrode. So I've got this attachment and one other, and this is a simple statement of facts. And it says Keith Orland Little and all other derivatives in any grammar style is not, in fact, a United States citizen, an impossibility with no birth registration in the United States. There is no record that anyone was born in the United States, whereupon a nationality was conferred, because the United States is not a nation to begin with. It is a federal corporation, not a nation or a government. Keith Orland Little and all other derivatives in any grammar style is not, in fact, a resident of the state of Iowa, an impossibility with no income and no obligation to work in person. He is no respecter of persons. He's who I seek counsel in, and that's how I am sent already. I cannot present myself. I cannot represent myself. I was sent here, and I fear not, for he is my Redeemer. He's the one that calls me by thy name. I am his. Keith Orland Little has never registered to vote in any state. Keith Orland Little has no state ID. Keith Orland Little has no state driver's license. And when it comes to a witness, we're first going to talk about King James Version Bible, John 8:14-20. Jesus answered and said unto them, though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true. For I know whence I came and whither I go, but ye cannot tell whence I come and whither I go. Yet, ye judge after the flesh. After the flesh, I judge no man. And yet, if I judge, my judgment is true, for I'm not alone, but I and the Father that sent me. This is reference to the intangible consciousness that you have. You are consciously aware. That's what you judge, is somebody's consciousness. Are they aware of what they're doing? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Simple. It is also written in your law that the testimony of two men is true. Again, bearing witness through the conscience, thought, and the conveyance of that thought in testimony. This is where we're told not to bear false witness against our brother. I am one that bear witness of myself, and the Father that sent me beareth witness of me. Every man and woman on this planet will recognize this. In every religion, they all believe that there's a greater source, a spiritualness that brought us all about, a source of life. None of them can explain this God. None of them can explain this Father. The best they can do is something like this. The Father that sent me. Then they said unto him, where is thy Father? This is their doubt. See, they're expecting to hear him and see him. He doesn't exist in the outer world. Heaven is within you. He is within you. Jesus answered, ye neither know me nor my Father. If ye had known me, ye should have known my Father also. See, this is where they destroy themselves, by saying that they're Christians and they believe that we're all born of God, and yet they question us in our spirituality, placating that we have to subject ourselves to vote for some earthly king and use some kind of ID and be able to work for him and transport goods back and forth with the driver license. Bunch of worker ants. These words spoke Jesus in the treasury as he taught in the temple, and no man laid hands on him, for his hour was not yet come. This is what we're supposed to have faith in. So that if we put the value in the words through Jesus, the way that he lived his life with his body, so that no one else comes for us and lays their hands on us. In that's the sacrifice of our body, because if they do, then we don't fight. It's the bodily sacrifice. You stand on the word of God. This is where it comes that they say, sell off all your clothes and buy a sword. I never entered a firm name into any records. I never used the social security number as an obligor number. The social security number is specifically styled with 2 dashes. I've never been taught to use it in any other way. And I've never been taught to write my name as a firm name. It was always the first name and last name, and it was always in cursive, never in all uppercase, and certainly not a firm name. You would think that if I created a firm, then I would be able to create the firm name. Yet there exists in those records a firm name that I'm not familiar with. Benefactor, Keith. Statement of facts ending with benefactor, Keith. Letting them know I recognize the trust and the false witnesses to that trust. See that ID, voter registration ID, and driver, those are all false witnesses. So let me check here. We got Sister Haya. Greetings, sister. How you doing tonight?
Hey,
Welcome back.
I'm doing great.
So what do you think about that witness? Isn't that one of the greatest witnesses to have? One that everybody recognizes. So let's go back to it then. If you ain't got nothing to say, that is. I'll take that as no.
I think I'm having intermittent internet.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna hold off a second and let you see if you got
It's
something to
just
say.
that
See if it wakes
my
up for you.
internet is intermittent. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
And that's okay. No need to be sorry. All right. Well, we'll get back to it real quick here, because I think the majority of the discussion is going to be in the next part. This is my responsive notice. And this here is an epoch number of when it was created. And this just merely is an attachment that stands for jury duty failure to appear. Just my own personal little notation for my own files. So it's my own file number. Okay. Basically lets them know that I'm keeping record. As an introduction to our research, notice I changed the language here. Before I used I never entered a firm name. I never used this. Yeah. Now it's our. Okay. Because again, I'm bearing witness with him. As an introduction to our research, which in him I sought counsel to seek these answers. Over the last 7 years, oops, I got a error there. We start with that which inspires our living souls. King James Bible, Jeremiah 51:31. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to shew the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. This is a message that I'm no longer going to continue to listen to the babble, that I've educated myself, and we're going to get this stuff clarified. As it goes to the Israelites are of Hebrew origins as the 12 tribes as a whole of God. Judaism Judaism is the extension of the house of Judah as the voice of the 12 tribes. Praise literally being the very meaning of the name. Judah means praise God. A part of the birthright demand spelled out in the names of the 12 sons of Jacob, renamed Israel. And this is where I refer to Isaiah 43:1. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. And 44:5, reaffirming that, one shall say, I am the Lord's. One shall call himself by the name Jacob. And another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord and surname himself by the name Israel. The rise of Judaism as a polity, a governing body, extends from Daniel as a tutor to Cyrus and several kings before him. Cyrus, as king of Persia and Media, was the one that freed the Israelites after conquering Babylon. Again, a notation that my voice is going to speak about the defeat of Babylon. I'm done. I do know, when that judge looked at me 7 years ago and asked me if I understood English, and I told him vehemently, yes, I didn't know how serious of a lie that was and how long I'd been lying about it. I now know much better. And again, don't let me dispel anything as being bad about it, because it's truly, the English language is truly an amazing thing. Welcome, Ragamuffin. How you doing tonight?
Hello, hello, hello.
We're just going over a responsive notice in regards to a jury duty failure to appear that they sent me in relations to 93 other cases that I've been trying to research and try to get resolved over the last 7 years. And if you're not familiar with Deuteronomy 15, it talks about the Lord's release after 7 years. And in that same set of scriptures, it talks about how we are the lenders unto the nations, as well as that when we come forth to make our redemption, that those that redeem us or we're buying back our debt from, let us not walk away empty-handed. It's basically telling us that there's something there that we've been forfeiting. And this goes with equity abhors of forfeiture. And this is that birthright that I was talking about. So let's get back into it. There's all three Abrahamic religions. Abraham, who was renamed Abraham, are based on the same promise and oath as cognized in all three. Specifically, Christianity at King James Version Bible, Hebrews 6:14 through 20. Similarly versed in the Torah and the Quran. All three rooted in the Israelite legacy of birthright. In fact, all three seem to agree in the same God. For the true value and voice to be paramount is to sing praise under the providence of grace of our higher power. We all, for the most part anyway, seem to strive to those ends, meeting our Maker. If that Maker is omnipresent in our reality, then what does it take to meet? Here's where I reference King James Version of the Bible, Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. There's already a communication, folks. It's written on your hearts. You've already met your Maker. You already know them. You've been disillusioned and distracted. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. We're supposed to speak the words in our heart unto the peoples. We're not supposed to speak the words of other men to the people. We're not supposed to be reiterating what other people say. We're supposed to be speaking from our heart. However, even without the spoken or written word, equity exists. This is the concept that without law, there still remains equity. Man knew how to treat each other fairly, in a sense, I imagine, before we had to have a written law. I'm sure they shared their meals in a certain way. And equity is a sort of equalities. So a little child probably didn't partake of the meat while you were still suckling on mom's boob. This is because the breath of life itself is an act of God and that only takes actions to prove the intent. This is going forth against one's accusers without fear, and rather knowing you are up to the task at hand. This is going forth with eyes and ears availed to singing praise of others and helping those who need praise. And the praise I speak of here is merely just doing good works. And we'll talk about that here in a few. But this going forth against one's accusers without fear and rather knowing you're up to the task at hand, going forth with eyes and ears. This is what I'm talking about when I have people that I meet. I'm using my eyes and ears to see if they're a mischievous person or if they're a spiritual person. That's my only discernment when I meet people. Study to shew thyself approved unto God, for that's where the true praise goes. This is where we learn when we give praise for each other for doing the good works. It's because we're praising God, because he's the one teaching us the good works. So we always reference God in praising. A workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And hopefully you'll see how I do this here shortly as I explain from here on down what's going on. So let's talk about those good works. King James Version Bible, Titus 3:8. This is a faithful saying, and these things I will, that thou affirm constantly, that they which have believed in God might be careful to maintain good works. These things are good and profitable unto men. And it's saying there, they that which have believed in God might be careful to maintain good works. This whole polity that we have today in these modern times, every last one of them comes from the scriptures of whatever nation you're from. They're the ones that believe it. They're the ones that base their laws on the words of God. These things are good and profitable unto men. That's plural. This is where they get their eminent domain, their public domain, eminent domain for the public good, community care concern. Sickening sometimes. As to the matters at hand being jury duty, we are not of a volunteer to judge another man. Remember that part? That's that witness. I can't witness to it. My Father which art in heaven is with me, and we can only judge the man's spirit, and I don't know the man. I can't judge his actions. See, these actions in these criminal things they've made public, and it's actually a private thing between the offender and the victim and their families. It's not supposed to be a public venue. True crime, anyway. In these administrative courts, that's what they need a jury for. You guys understand that part?
Are they
Those
trying to
courts
say
are,
it's your public duty to be there?
yeah, because you're part of the public body as they see it. You're living in that society, and they say that you have a social duty. Well, that social duty, in my eyes, is has a greater truth in it. If I'm a public servant to my brother, to make sure that I'm a public servant as a witness in the eyes and ears of God, and not in the fictional paperwork of persons. Every last one of these
On the
courts
card that
is
I had
involved.
received years ago,
Go
I
ahead.
put that I was not a U.S. citizen, and they haven't called me. They haven't called me or sent me anything. I told them I'm not a U.S. citizen.
Now, who'd you tell?
You know the card that they send you in the mail? The little postcard that maybe you didn't receive? The way you can
Oh,
get
for
out of
voter.
jury duty
Oh,
is you fill out.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah. If you just
yeah, you
tell,
just
if you
fill
just
that
tell
out.
them that, that's
Let
fine.
them know.
Yeah, they're just not gonna include you in that jury duty then. But when it comes from my situation, I've got to correct the records. And as it is, this is just a convenient setup where I get to enter into the court of equity without any actual violations on my part. See, they're
Excellent.
trying, yeah, see, they're trying to tell me that I'm part of their administrative association, and I'm not. And so I get a chance to clarify that, and in clarifying that, equity imputes and the intent to fulfill an obligation. And because I'm the one that's telling them that I entered data elements in error, and that's why they're trying to summons me for jury duty. I'm sorry, I apologize, I repent, I won't do it again. But in that, now I gotta help them correct the records. It's my obligation. Now that I know they're wrong and I'm the one that did it, I gotta clean up my own mess. This is what so many people are not willing to do.
Yeah, because they don't know about it yet.
Yep, absolutely. Once we learn it, this is why I say once you become a certain age of majority, a certain age, there comes a point in time where there's a certain reason and logic that you should start thinking about things. And we get caught up in the comfort and convenience and in cognitive dissonance so much that we forget the spirit, and nobody's teaching that spirit. And that spirit is what we really need in order to be able to do the equitable things in our lives. If we can't, then we are in fact subjecting ourselves to that slavitude of that person, that peonage, and being that fiction instead of who we truly are, the living soul. So, as to equity
Will you
and
be
the
writing
estate,
them a letter?
this is what this is here. In regards to that jury duty,
Oh,
the summons, I did a bunch of line item veto and overriding and made some notes on it. And then I'm attaching a statement of facts and the responsive notice here. This is what I'm sending him. I'm going to send it off tomorrow. So as to equity and the estate of Keith Little, it is a matter of correction of the records. First, we must admit to our own errors in entering false data elements. In entering those data elements in the administrative agencies, we have discovered we have placed liabilities on the public record. If we had known this before, we certainly would not have entered them in the manner that we did. Please accept our sincere apologies for previous accidents as we repent and will not do so again. You're not telling that, you're not rebutting them and saying they don't have authority over you. You're telling them that you made mistakes and you're not going to do those again. In that, you have to be able to tell them what those mistakes are. That we have the knowing and the effects. After adding those data elements, and now I know what the effects are, being thrown in jail and having to confront 94 fucking cases and not being competent as a trustee, I failed in a lot of them. I was successful in some, but I failed in a lot. Tells me I shouldn't be doing this. Don't you agree? Uh-huh. kind of reasonable, logical there, isn't it? So we meant no harm and wish to
pretty
reconcile the
amazing.
records to be able. Say what?
Pretty amazing that they want you to do jury duty when you have 94 cases or something like
Yeah,
that.
right. We meant no harm to wish to reconcile the records to be able to go forth appropriately in the future. And then we put down equity acts in personam. Equity imputes an intent to fulfill an obligation, and equity regards as done what ought be done. The record must reflect accurately, so we got to correct it. These errors happened over many years, and this says that this reconciliation will not happen overnight. In that, one who seeks equity must do equity. Our only intent is to correct that which is wrong. Equity does not require an idle gesture. Equity aids the vigilant and not those who slumber on their rights. We expect to learn more as we work together to bring an accord that will satisfy all parties involved. Equity is a sort of equality. Equity will not suffer a wrong to be without a remedy. Note in square brackets 28 USC 2201 creation of remedy. Though we do not make any accusations other
you're
than errors.
putting that in brackets.
Just as a
You're
note.
putting that in
Just as
brackets
a,
because you're wanting to do equity.
right.
Yeah.
And I just want them to take note that I have the right to create remedy because they even have a law that says creation of remedy. It's just the same thing what Jesus did. And your law says this. It's just put in brackets. Though we do not make any accusations other than errors, there may exist records of events that may be deemed wrongful violations. In that, we can only give directions as to what is ours to take up as responsibilities. Equity delights to do justice and not by halves. And so what I'm saying here is, even though the record might purport that people did some things that they weren't supposed to on the other side of the counter, I'm not here to accuse them of fraud. However, if their administrators and their bosses deemed that they're incompetent, negligent, or need further education, or need to be thrown in jail or fined or whatever, they will do so. That's not up to me. I'm leaving that to them. That's the full acquittance part. I'm not going to hold any person liable in any court. But if their agency says, hey, in our private meetings, we need to take care of some reprimand issues or something, then so be it. That's on them, not me. I'm not going to judge the man. If they want to judge their own men, they can do so. As the record reflects, many various cases of differing jurisdictions and is evidence of expense and administrative fees, the public liability, that could have been averted. Again, our apologies for voluntarily presuming we are supposed to do so. In this, our attempt to reconcile those records is to help sustain the state's budget in the future to prevent such liabilities. He who comes into equity must come with clean hands. Equity will take jurisdiction to avoid a multiplicity of suits. We handle all 94 cases in the matter of equity as one case, rather than going back and looking at each and every one of them independently. Okay, so one action takes care of all of them to be audited and corrected. One action takes care of all of them to be audited and corrected at once. Because it's the same error in all of them. Equity will not assist a volunteer. I can't come in as a defendant. For personal jurisdiction to be had, the state must, or the plaintiff must serve the defendant in the state in which the court sits, and the defendant needs to voluntarily appear in court. That tells me if I go in with the defendant or as a defendant, now however it happens, as a volunteer act, equity is not there. So I have to come with equity. That means I have to come standing my ground and not volunteering, but demanding equality. It is our comprehension that upon filing the SS5 form, an individual is then subjected to state and federal laws for acquisition regulations. Again, oops, another error. Had we known some certain things that we are now aware of, we would not have filed to have our estate administrated by the state. Where equities are equal, the law will prevail. Equity follows the law. Again, that's why we mentioned this up here. Equity follows the law, and the law says there's a creation of remedy for those that are not capable of receiving remedy under those statutory and federal codes because they're not a resident or a citizen. They're a foreigner. Therefore, those codes don't apply to them. Same with the Constitution. So we have to get our remedy in equity, and we have to bring it. We have to create it. We have to be the peacemaker. We have to be the negotiator. We have to do all this. This is our obligation. We can no longer just say, I volunteer, let you do it. Because that's what you've been doing. I volunteered to let you do all the work as an administrator and jack up the administrative fees that's causing all these taxes and everything like this for that people so vehemently believe in. 98% of the income tax is paid voluntarily. Ask IRS. They will tell you yes. Then why are 98% of the people just volunteering this shit? It's not equity. Get it through your heads. So it is my comprehension that the county registrar is holder of a document of title that evidences the estate transfer from the mother of Keith Little as informant. This document of title with the given name Keith and the family name Little, brackets Conrady by birthright, as I was adopted, is real property that actually belongs to the equitable title holder. As the intended legacy heir of equitable title, that legal title is real property that actually belongs to Keith. This legal title is established upon enumeration at birth, wherein the state creates a state vital statistic jurisdiction for each individual born in the state. Born in the state is like in the United States, it's the paperwork. So if an individual is born in the state, it was a document. Document of title. That's the individual. This determination is the creation of a state resident for income tax purposes. Equity regards the beneficiary as the true owner. Equity abhors a forfeiture. Equity will not allow a statute to be used as a cloak for fraud. And equity will not allow a trust to fail for want of a trustee. It is imperative that we comprehend that this is all in trust. Again, we apologize for acting, performing, functioning as if we were trustee of the public trust and able to place liabilities on the ledgers thereof. Had we known how trust operates and the details therein that are the guides and principles of law, we would have never entered the data elements we did. Equity will not allow a trust to fail for want of trustee, reiterated again. And as it says, equity will not, or excuse me, I've missed this one, didn't I? I did that one, I don't know. Equity will not assist a volunteer, so we have to do things. And this is stepping up into a capacity of trustee to be able to settle the matters. In order to be able to settle the matters, you have to have the knowledge. That's why I talk about after 7 years of research, we now have a knowing of the effects.
Keith,
Yes.
will you be asking for any subrogation rights?
No, I'm coming in as settler and making demands. I'm giving directions.
Okay.
Giving directions.
Okay. Oh, cool. Is there any type of a deed poll? Have you heard of that deed poll?
None of that matters. The only thing I'm
Patrick
after is
Devine
that
has.
document. Yeah, the only thing I'm after is that document down at the county registrar that's got that given name and family name and clarifies that I was born on the land, Jess Soli and Jess Sanguinus. I have a blood right, and that's why I'm demanding the birthright. That document clarifies all nationality and everything because it was a general ledger, or excuse me, a general journal, which is the prenatal ledger or prenatal docket that mom was filling out when she went to the hospital. The birth clerk entered in that one document enlisting her as an informant, and there's 3 signatures on there. That was the construction of a trust.
Yeah.
Hey, brother, I didn't really have a lot to bring to the table tonight to add. I just wanted to pop in and say hello, and I got some things I got to take care of, but I just want to say hello. God bless you, man. Praying for all that, bro, and just wanted to listen because, man, you're a wealth of knowledge, bro, and I definitely appreciate hearing all this and seeing you stand up against the BS, bro, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, there was a day I stood in court fingering them, cussing them, swearing them, calling them all kinds of names, communist bastard and everything. And I think I'm over those days, and I'm just gonna, put my foot down, and hopefully I'll be able to keep the same tone of voice that I'm keeping here and talk to them like folk road boys and girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. God's got you. He'll give you the words to speak before the multitude when if and when that day
Well,
comes. You know.
well, that's part of the problem, though. I'm just like everybody else. I got this psychology where I start getting into some of those passionate moments, and my emotions will come out, and that's the part I'm working on, and I hope everybody sees that.
Oh,
In
for
the
sure,
meantime, yes,
100. Yeah.
all glory goes to Him. God bless.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bless up, everybody. Much love.
Absolutely.
I'm
Thank you, brother.
seeing that in
Thank you. I appreciate that. So now we're going to continue on. It says, we hereby place in these communications our intent to release liabilities in full acquittance and discharge in the interest of the United States, for the account of the United States. And I made another error. I got to put and in there. And for the person making the same, so that no person shall be held liable in any court. It's very important that we put our intent in there, and it's to release the liabilities in full acquittance and discharge, for this is your forgiveness. This is your Lord's Prayer part. Earning your bread, working together. Faith is dead without works. It's that's part of these equity maxims, the Lord's Prayer. Read it again. Read it until you get it. Read those maxims of equity and the maxims of commerce. Read them over and over. King James Version of the Bible, Matthew 18:15. Here we are. In reference to John 8, verses 14 through 20 that we spoke of earlier with that witness. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. This is privately, not in a public forum. Between thee and him alone. What don't you get? This is the private administrative process. 1, 2, 3. One notice. Let him know that you have aught with them. If he doesn't listen to you, get a second witness and give him a second notice. If he doesn't, give him aught for just chance, 1/3 time, that something's seriously wrong and it was not his fault. And if he does it again, now it's a final judgment. Pure and simple, folks. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. We are willing to do what it takes in these private matters to fulfill, again, an error should be to fulfill our obligations so long as they remain private from this day forward. We are not of public capacity. We are not a public servant of the public trust. Our public service is under our Father which art in heaven, owing no man anything but to love one another, for that is to fulfill the law. We appreciate this opportunity to come to peaceful terms after all these years of babble and idiocy. This is my own claim to my own dumbness. Because I'm the one that stood there and vehemently said yes when that guy asked me if I understood English. And come to realize 7 years later, the English language is a beautiful thing, but I still do not understand it wholly. I will still continue to work with it and mold it and try to beautify things as I go along the way. Learning how to use it more and more. Thank you. And again, we apologize reverently, Chaplain Keith. As we go on from this, our intent, we start out with the equity abhors a forfeiture. And as I said, that document is what I'm after. And that's through the estate recovery program. At the time you were born, Iowa Medicaid Estate Recovery Program was activated, or excuse me, the Iowa Medicaid was activated. The Medicaid parts A and B were activated. That was the establishment of the trust and the estate. And that's what we're going in to settle. Every state requires an estate recovery program. And I believe everything I've researched so far says it. Every state does it through the Health and Human Services. So put in your states. If you live in Florida, put in Florida Health and Human Services Estate Recovery Program. It'll bring up a site for you. And the thing
Is
is,
this when you're born or when you need those services later?
when you become age and majority, you fill out an SS5, and what you're doing is you're handing the estate over to the state to administer. Instead, you're supposed to go to the county to get that document, that statement of live birth, and convert the estate to a private estate, and make sure that it's not commingled as if though you're an officer of the public trust. Otherwise, that record reflects you're an officer of the public trust. So as a receiver, you go down to the county and pick up that document. And a receiver is a person appointed as custodian of a person or entity's property. You were given you're custodian of that because you are the legacy heir. It's got your name on it. Okay? So you take that document that they created and you assign a receiver. And then in that assignment of receivership, you hand it to them to correct those records. See, I am the one of this estate that was established. I come forth with my living will. I'm giving you my will to correct your records. Get it? That's not for you to administrate. There is a will. It is a living will. It is the living will of the living word of the living God you see before you. It says a receiver is a person appointed as custodian of a person or entity's property, finances, general assets, or business operations. Receivers can be appointed by courts, government regulators, or private entities. Receivers seek to realize and secure assets and manage affairs to pay debts. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through that record and we're going to make all parties whole because equity acts, what was it?
In personam.
Well, I'm looking more for equity. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have led you there. Equity delights to do justice and not by halves. So what we're doing here is saying anybody that's got a real debt, we're going to pay up on it. What's owed? Now they got to tell us who really owes what. See what I'm saying? Now they got to bring forth that settler, that principal, and all that. See, that's the one they're hiding. And that 28 U.S. Code 2201 is creation of remedy. Says in a case of actual controversy within its jurisdiction, except with respect to federal taxes, other than actions brought under Section 7428 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, a proceeding under Section 505 or 1146 of Title 11, bankruptcy, or in any civil action involving anti-dumping or countervailing duty. Remember we were talking about veils? Countervailing duty. They have a duty and they are countervailing their duty by if they don't allow the correction of the record. Right? So I've already been before these people twice on this jury duty. And they're countervailing their duties, even though I told them I'm not subject to your jurisdiction. I don't have ID. I don't have a driver's license. I've never registered to vote. I'm a felon. 93 cases. Well, that doesn't matter. Really. You're going to find out it does matter soon. Proceeding regarding a class or kind of merchandise of a free trade area country. Now, what do you suppose that zip code and its importance is, folks? Did they send that to me through the mail from one trade area into another?
Mm.
Remember, the definition of deposit is a foreign deposit, right? See where I'm getting? Their law is so ambiguous that you have to come down to every term. Free trade area is relevant to that zip code because that's a foreign trade zone. Again, under a postal contract. The ability to be able to post things to an administrative record of the Tariff Act of 1930, let's see, as determined by the administering authority, any court of the United States, upon the filing of appropriate pleading, may declare the rights and other legal relations of any interested party seeking such declaration, whether or not further relief is or could be sought. So in equity, we find out that in correcting the record, the remedy itself will bring forth any relief that is required because it will already be there. Those insurance credits that are sitting there at the Social Security Administration that you've earned all your life, the taxes that you paid in that you weren't subject to pay, the fines, fees, and penalties that you
Wow.
paid in that you weren't required to pay, the child support that you paid in that you weren't required to pay. See, this is a matter of balancing the general ledger. And if you're not
Mm.
subject to be able to place that liability and not an officer, then you shouldn't have been subjected to that monetary judicial system, period. But because they only have that one system, they say everybody's subject to it when that's false. That's part of the problem with being able to provide small communities and their own banking system and their own monetary system. The United States is placating that. No, you have to use our money. The fuck you do. You have the unlimited power of contract. Today's definition of legal tender is negotiable instruments. Fucking learn how to write. That's all it takes. The next one
So they
is
have all the
Deuteronomy.
records of your marriage licenses and your business licenses
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
So
They've got
they
all
will
your tax
automatically
records, all of it.
ledge it out and balance.
Right. And the next one is
Wow.
Deuteronomy 15 in whole. Um, this this has to do with the this is not the right one. I'll have to fix this one. Be damned where I get that one. I have to look. Anyway, Deuteronomy 15 is the one that we're supposed to be looking at there, in regards to the Lord's release every 7 years and being lenders unto the nations. So just mark that for your notes. Deuteronomy 15 in whole. And then as we continue on, it says, think, folks, think. If the another error, if the estate cannot be administrated until one has deceased, then how is it they can administrate you? Because they're holding a record that says the benefactor hasn't come and taken his property, and therefore it still sits in their administrative records. You are a real and personal effect of your mama. All real and personal effects encompass the entire estate. We're going to read that here. You are a real and personal effect of your mama. That document of title at the county registrar is holding is intended for yourself to receive and make an assignment to settle the estate matters. That is the subject matter. That is the real property. And that real property that belongs to the benefactor. That's how you beat the presumption. Once you receive it, then you can settle it as settler. You come in as benefactor of your mama, placing the facts on the record. Once you receive that document, now you can go forth and settle the estate. You can't settle the estate until you receive that document as the intended beneficiary. That way you can take that legal title and you are the equitable title holder, and now you can collapse the trust. And you assign the trustee and you assign him to follow the law to help you create the remedy. That's his duty, to work together to earn our daily bread. I have faith in you. You have faith in me. Let's get it. Personal property, goods, worldly substance. If the term is used simpliciter, as in a gift of all my effects, it will carry the whole personal estate, unless an intention appears to the contrary. The meaning of the term is determined by the context and surrounding circumstances, and is broad enough to include property of any kind. Of any kind, tangible or intangible. Your words are your property. Coin them or purse them. The words real and personal effects will embrace the whole estate. This is Hogan versus Jackson. Foxhall versus McKinney. One must come forth as benefactor to receive that which is his, to then settle the estate for lack of execution. You have no one you can sign as executor of the estate as a public officer, because that would be commingling again. You need to remove everything from public and then create your own living will and assign your own executor in private. Period. And with that, we are done. We are done. What do you think, Haya? You there? There
Okay,
she is.
so I have a question. For the people who have, yeah, can you hear me okay? So for the
Yep.
people who have claimed their all caps name, are you saying that they need to do this type of a thing because they've gotten to the age of majority? Are you actually saying that they need to assign someone else as the F-56? Or do you think that the living woman or man can be the settler or the executrix or executor? Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Mm.
I'm sorry. I just realized I was muted.
Thank you.
Thank you for the mute.
Thanks.
When it comes to those forms, those are vendor forms. And if you're going to use that person, which is their person, they created it. They constructed that legal name based on your given and family name. You can create your own person under a totally different name. So it's their person
Yeah.
and you're using their forms. Those are vendor forms known as battle of the forms, this and that, all so much. It's so convoluted. But the thing is that if you're using those forms, specifically like a form 56, everybody thinks, okay, I'm an assigning trustee. You're acting as a trustee yourself. That's specifically what those vendor forms are for, is trustees working with other trustees. So when you use the form 56, all you're doing is acting as a trustee, assigning another person as trustee, and that's not correct in your capacity as benefactor.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
I think
Bad
so.
Barney says.
I know that a couple of years ago,
Go ahead.
I did do the F-56, but I didn't send it into the IRS. I only sent it into the CFO of the courthouse, and then he retired as soon as I sent that. And then his secretary, executive secretary, she got mad at me and she says, "You're not supposed to be filling those forms out. Now you made me have to move my whole office and we had to move everything." I'm like, "What? Did I do that? I caused him to be retired?" Because I sent in GSA bonds too.
Yeah, well, see,
And he was
that's part of the
retired.
problem. And that's part of the problem. I've got a lot of people that are sitting in jail that I know because they did them certain liens and stuff. And I'm telling you, people, that's something they don't play with. That's why I don't do that. That's going out
I didn't do
making
any
accusations
liens.
and trying to see. You're going out making accusations and stuff, and the scripture doesn't say that. Scripture tells us we're not supposed to be
I didn't do
judging
any
them.
liens.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I say, it's a touchy thing. You really have to do your research. Show yourself worthy and approved. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, we're at the end of it then. And again, I appreciate you stopping up here, Aya. We're gonna keep doing these streams like I always have been. I always appreciate your support. So keep watching out for it and keep hitting that like, share, and subscribe button, folks. Grow this community, and hopefully one of these days I'll be able to show you how to walk like a lion of Judah, spreading the voice and praising him in truth,
Thank
honor,
you.
integrity, and letting people know that you are the children of God, and there is a way you can act like it, but you got to get rid of the fear. You gotta. So anyway, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. There's some PayPal links down there for anybody who wants to share some love. And remember, folks, I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. So may God bless you and have a good night. We'll see you guys again next time. All right. Bye now.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.